Episode 10, 5-1 Star Wars characters. Not in the movies.
Is an Asian Sith that, that's all I really know.
Did you say he's an Asian Sith?
I don't think he's Asian. I've never really seen his face.
Agent.
I didn't know that in the Star Wars galaxy there was a China. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of 5-1, the best hour of your day and the best list podcast in the galaxy, and maybe one that's far, far away. 5-1 is all about the countdown from our panel of experts on a different topic each week. Today we are featuring the best non-movie Star Wars characters in our style of counting down from 5-1. So what does that mean, non-movie, to you guys? I mean, every hardcore Star Wars fan is aware of what has been labeled as the expanded universe, right? It started back in, the 90s with Timothy Zahn. He wrote these novels that came out. And since then, they've had hundreds of books, comic books, video games, board games, role-playing games, TV shows, and magazines. And many fans have come to actually prefer some expanded universe material to some of the movies, right?
Yes.
So this is kind of a tricky thing because we are doing non-movie characters for this. So what does that mean, though? What if, especially with the new TV shows, Rebels and Clone Wars, like some of the expanded universe characters have made their way into those episodes. So, and Disney has redefined what expanded universe means. It's not even called that anymore. It's called Legends. You guys aware of this?
Yes.
So, essentially, Disney took everything that was considered expanded universe before a certain date. I don't know what that date is, but some point in time, and they relabeled all of that as Legends and said it's no longer canon at all. There used to be like layers of canon, right? There was the movie level canon, and then there was TV show canon, and then book canon, and comic book canon, and video, and they were all different layers. Everything before that date that wasn't a movie is now not canon, and everything since that date is canon. So it's kind of confusing because there still has to be like layers, right? Because like the novelizations, the books that came out that are about The Force Awakens, for example, is a little bit different than the movie because it was written before the movie was finalized. The movie has to have precedence, I would think, if there's a conflict.
Yes.
Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jett, you've been begging to do another Star Wars related episode, right? We thought it made sense to do our list of 5 favorite. Well, for the episode, we call them EU characters, we call them Legends characters, we call them non-canon characters. They're all interchangeable, right? So for the purpose of this episode, call it whatever you want. So our 5 favorite EU characters, and exclude any canonical or in-movie characters. I guess it should also exclude characters from the Clone Wars and Rebels, because those are considered canon. You guys have anything else to explain the setup of this?
Not really.
Books, kind of?
Books are, I guess, Legends, right? Except the new books are not, but you haven't read any of those anyways. I mean, in my mind, nothing has changed, even with the new ruling. It all exists in the same universe of storytelling, and any conflicts are resolved either in the mind of the fan, so the fan decides, or using some sort of tiered canonical assignment, with the movies, of course, always being on the top of that hierarchy. So those are the rules I use for my list. I guess we should just probably get started. I think our many let's just put it this way: any of our regular listeners already know, all 3 of them, that we are pretty big Star Wars fans in general. That being the case, this should be an easy episode for us when it comes to interesting discussion. Why don't I introduce the panel today? You guys are barely talking so far.
Yeah.
Okay, so joining me for this 5-1 countdown today are my 2 galactically intelligent sons, both experts in the ways of the Force. My 12-year-old, Obi-Wan Kade.
All right, nice.
Nice, okay. And my 9-year-old, Jett Porkins.
Do you get that one, Jett?
No.
Do you know who Porkins is?
No.
Do you remember in, I think it's the first Star Wars, when they're on, it might be Return of the Jedi, one of the 2 when they're attacking the Death Star, and kind of the fat pilot,
I know.
the chunky pilot, and he says, my ship's going down, and his ship crashes into the Death Star and blows up. His name is Jett Porkins. Porkins. He's a fat guy, and they named him Porkins.
Oh yeah, it's in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
No, it's either in Star Wars or in Return of the Jedi. They're attacking the Death Star. There is no Death Star.
I got it.
They attack in
Revenge
of the Sith.
I meant Return of the Jedi. That's
Yeah,
number 3, right?
No, that's number 6.
Revenge of the Sith.
Wait, what?
Okay. Revenge of the Sith, there is no Death Star that they attack.
And number 3, what's number 3 called?
Revenge of the Sith. That's a prequel. That's
Yeah.
where...
I think he's thinking of like
Alright, hold on.
how they were made in order instead of what the order actually is now.
We've had this discussion a lot, Jett, lately, because you always like to rank things. That's kind of why we started this 5-to-1 episode. And when you rank Star Wars movies, you say, number 3 is number 4, and number 2 is number 5, and number 1 is number 6. And it's like, what are you talking about? Which number 1 is what? You say the names of the movies. You just had this discussion with Evan at my birthday party this past weekend. You were asking him to his favorite Star Wars movie, and you were saying, well, I like number 3, number 4. And it's like, dude, say the name of the movie, right? You can even abbreviate it. Say Sith and Jedi and Empire.
So which one's number 3, though?
Revenge of the Sith.
Alright. I can prove it's that guy. In the beginning of number 3, Anakin and Obi-Wan are in a ship firing at people. Then in the beginning of the movie...
Are they by the Death Star?
No.
No, I said when they were attacking the Death Star, there is a pilot who crashes into the Death Star because he's fat and his ship couldn't hold his weight. And his name is Jett Porkins, so I called you Jett Porkins.
Hey.
There's your name. Okay, jeez. So Jett, let's continue with this discussion. We know you love Star Wars, but why have you wanted to do another Star Wars episode so badly when we just did one not that long ago?
I wanted to do it so badly because all of those characters in our top 5 favorite Star Wars characters canon. Lucky I didn't say canon there.
Yeah, you didn't.
And all of them are usually some people that you know. All of them, like, you probably know Yoda, you probably know Obi-Wan, you probably know Luke, even if you don't like Star Wars. So maybe if you like listen to non-canon, you will. Did I say it?
I think you said Canyon. I don't know. Keep going.
You'll like get to learn more experience in Star Wars and more people and what the story is and how they got there. Or
okay, I like that answer. Did you find this list easier or harder to make than the first Star Wars list?
Easier, way easier.
Okay, it was a lot harder for me. Okay, I begin to like a lot of things that are non-canon rather than some things that are canon. You know, talking movies and games and book-wise. Uh-huh. And so I have so many choices and so many characters that I absolutely love. It was such a tough decision. Way harder than... Because I know a lot more.
I think it was harder for me too, kind of along the lines of what you're saying. And the reason is there are, like the characters that are in the movie that are kind of background characters, like the creatures in the cantina, the bounty hunters that you see that chase down Han Solo, including Boba Fett, but the other ones, right? All of those characters have huge backstories in the expanded universe or the Legends category. So are those characters canon characters or non-canon characters? The way I looked at it is they're canon characters, but for the purpose of this list, if I picked one of them because I like the story that's not in universe, then I counted it as expanded universe for my list. So kind of along the lines of what you're saying, Kade, there are so many of them. There are hundreds of books and hundreds of comic books and lots of video games, and the characters in the movies that are canon have huge non-canon background stories. So
and they expand it like so much,
and some of it's really, really good, right? And some of it's not. But the ones that are they do make it hard to choose between. Jett, I have another question for you before we get started. Did you pick any EU characters that are not from the Old Republic or Knights of the Old Republic for your list?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, but it's my worst.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
The reason I asked you, hold on, Kade. The reason I asked you is because when we did our baseball players list, all 5 of yours were Texas Rangers. And Casey King, who's my friend from college, shout out to Casey King, he commented to me after he listened that, well, he sure did learn a lot about the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something about, Kade, what you said about number 3. I think I made a joke about number 2, and you said I think it's a number 3 now.
Oh, yes,
He
yes.
thought that was really funny.
Also, it was harder. It was easier for me this time because I started to learn the non-canon characters kind of when I got older. When I was a baby, I was making the bigger noise.
Yeah.
And now for me to grow up and try to break them, it's kind of hard when I knew all of them throughout my whole life.
That makes sense. You've loved all of
Yeah.
them for a long time, so it's hard to pick your favorite between them.
Yeah, but non-canon, it's kind of like, I'm
There-
not saying it's new, but it's newer.
But there's some that stick out to
Yeah.
you more than the other ones. Okay. Kate, so my first question for you was, did you actually write a list this time? And the answer was no, but then I made you do it while I was getting everything set up.
Yes.
You do better when you have a list.
Always.
I probably do.
You definitely do. Okay. I had another question on here because we were supposed to record this before. My birthday was yesterday. I was asking if you got me a birthday present, but I know the answer because I got all my presents yesterday. Okay, so our video game episode was super fun to record for me and fun to listen to, but it did make me think that I should maybe limit my choices a little bit if we're truly doing a 5-to-1 because I had all those cheat codes in there. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I had like 30 honorable
With
mentions.
cheat code.
Yeah. So I think that I could have done the same for this. I could have made 50 characters and found a way to talk about all of them because there are so many great characters to choose from. But in the spirit of the 5-to-1 podcast rules, I've limited myself to 5 choices and only 2 honorable mentions. So I'm going to try to stick to that format from now on so I don't have like 100 choices. Video games is really hard to do that with.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Let's get started. What order do you guys want to go in today?
I'll go first.
I'll go first. You've been going first.
I said it first, though, and it's kind of my thing. You know, Jett has this thing, and you have your thing. This is my thing where I always go
fine.
first.
You'll go first.
That was easier than I thought. All right, Kate, you go first.
Okay, for my number 5 on my list, it is Tulak Horde. Okay, and
Tulak Horde.
Tulak Horde. I don't know how to say his name very well, but
That's a lot of our listeners, all 3 of them, don't listen to or don't watch Star Wars as much as we do and know as much about it. So we're gonna have to take a little bit of time to
explain who these people are.
So Tulak Horde
Is an Asian Sith that that's all I really know.
Did you say he's an Asian Sith?
I don't think he's Asian. I've never really seen his face.
Agent.
I didn't know that in the Star Wars galaxy there was a China
Or
India
Asia and
or Japan or Korea.
What's
or Russia.
Are you saying ancient?
Yeah.
Like old?
Yes.
Okay, not Asian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I put him as my number 5 list because I love how he fights. I know a little bit of his backstory. I studied him a little bit when I was really into Star Wars: The Old Republic. Even though he's not in it much, there's not much story on him at all. But you see like glimpses of him.
I think that he's got... is he the one in the Old Republic where if you play as a Sith Inquisitor, he's like your great-great-great-grandfather and you get his mask?
No, you don't get your mask. His
No one's
mask.
found his body or yet. They have a tomb for him.
Oh, okay.
But they thought, this is what I read, is that they thought they found his body and they put it in the tomb, and then his body wasn't there. But you see him, when you're doing the Revan missions, you know how you can see those ghosts walking around?
Yeah.
If you zoom in on them, they're old Sith.
Yeah.
Like, I saw Ajunta
Is he
Paul.
one of them?
I saw
So
Darth.
Ajunta Paul was like the first Sith Lord of the Sith Empire when they... So like the way it worked, I considered a lot of ancient Sith for my list, and I picked one. We'll get to him in a minute. But the way it worked was, and this is a very fuzzy history because not much has been written about the origins of the Jedi, but they started on the planet Tython, right? And there were ancient Jedi. Some of them practiced dark force practices, right? And it was frowned upon, and then they got in a battle over it, and the Dark Jedi is what they called them, were kicked off the planet. They lost and they were kicked off. They floated around space for a while and ended up settling on Korriban, which in the Clone Wars they called Moraband, right?
Yeah, they should stick to Korriban. It's such a cooler name.
Yeah, but George Lucas didn't like it because Korriban sounds too much like Coruscant.
That is true. And they're kind of opposites.
Yeah, but I like the sound of Korriban better. But anyways, Ajunta Paul was the first when they landed on Korriban. There was a race there of people that were red skinned and they had like tendrils on their face.
They wore jewelry and stuff.
No,
Didn't they wear jewelry on their faces? and
Hardly
stuff?
any.
they might. Some of them might, but that's not something all of them did. My point is, they were called Sith. That was their species. It wasn't like Sith to them didn't mean a bad guy who uses the Force, right? That's what they are. Like, we're humans, and homie's a dog, and they were Sith. And Ajunta Pall was the first one who they came and they kind of conquered these people, and they were also Force sensitive, the Sith, and over years they interbred with them. So humans and Sith had their own children, and they learned how to use the Force, and they became Sith in the way that we know Sith now, which is bad guys who use the Force. So Ajunta Pall was the first one. Tulak Hord was another one of these ancient ones, and you've learned about Tulak Hord through the Old Republic, I'm guessing, is where you first learned about him?
Yes, I learned about him, or I heard about him, and I learned more just, studying and doing research on him, because I thought he was really cool, because, like, so many people are trying to find, like, his spirit or body or whatever he is, because he's, like, basically, like, disappeared out of existence. It's like his lightsaber behind. You can get his armor in the game. And I remember right when you start in the mission, if you start as a Sith in Star Wars: The Republic, the first mission you do takes place in Tulak Hord's tomb.
Oh, okay.
And so I thought that was really cool, because I didn't notice at first, when I made my Sith starting, my first 20 characters.
Yeah.
I got to level 20 and deleted. I didn't notice it at all. And so when I walked in, I looked above and it showed like what place you're in, and like in bold letters it tells you like what place you're in, but you don't really notice it much.
Right.
And so it said Tulak Hord's tomb. I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
that's really cool.
So I know
there's,
Ajunta Pall has a tomb there too, and so does a few others that are like the ancient Sith.
Yeah.
And even in the game Knights of the Old Republic that preceded the Old Republic, the ones you haven't played, you have missions on some of those tombs as well. In fact, Revan has a mission where you have to go into Ajunta Pall's tomb and find an artifact of some sort, a Sith artifact. So I like that kind of stuff. I love the planet Korriban in the games. It's my favorite.
So historic,
place.
and they have like statues and stuff.
It's really interesting, and you learn a lot about like the history of the Sith and their leaders. It's just interesting to me.
And that was like the first planet where I read about what the planet is. Like, they give you tons of information on the planet if you like discover something like a lore object or like something, but I never read them. I just get them because it gives you a little bit of XP.
Yeah.
And so when you actually look and read them on Korriban, it tells you so much about why they built these statues, what these statues are, and the Korriban history of Sith and stuff.
Yeah.
And what I found was really cool is that in all the tombs there for all the ancient Sith, there's so much room to explore. Like, I remember, like, in some missions, you have to go through the tomb and you have to find artifacts and stuff, and there's, like, a bunch of stuff. You're wondering, like, why is this in here? And then, like, sometimes, I think it's in Ajunta Pall's tomb, there's, like, a big statue and, like, statues around it, and then you have to fight like a boss there, or like it like spawns like a giant monster you have to kill that was like his pet or something.
Right.
I know one. I think it was an Agent 2. I think it's the mission to get Kem Val.
Oh, okay.
That's
not on Korriban though, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is.
On the Sith Inquisitor, your first companion you get is Kem Val. You're supposed to get him as level 10. You leave on Korriban with like
at level 10.
Generally level 10, and
for some reason I thought you got him on what's the name of the home planet?
Dromacos.
Yeah, but I guess Korriban. Okay, well, let's move on. We spent a lot of time on Tulak Hord. Who is your number 5, Jett? Malgus. So this is another, just for the listeners, this is another character from the Old Republic, which is a video game that takes place about 3,500 years before the movies do.
So Malgus is...
So Tulak Hord was even older than that.
Oh, yeah.
Malgus is about 3,500 years before the movie. So go ahead, Jett.
So there's this girl named Satoshi.
She's a Jedi.
Yeah, she's known
Jedi
to be...
Master, right? The Grandmaster.
She's known to be one of the most... I'm not saying the most, but one of the most powerful Jedi of all time. And is it her mom, Bastila Shan?
It's not her mom. It's like her... It's 300 years apart, so it would be her great-great-great-great-grandmother.
She was very powerful.
And who was her great-great-great-great-grandfather? If her great-great-great-great-grandmother was Bastila Shan, her great-great-great-grandfather would be Revan. So, yeah, she's got some good genes.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty sure Malgus killed Bastila Shan.
No, Bastila Shan died about 300 years before Malgus was alive.
So...
And wasn't she on that one planet, I forgot, and then they bombarded the planet and like shot it down with like guns and stuff. Like,
All right.
you told me about someone, I forgot, it was like Sith, where she was on Taurus, and
she was on Taurus, but she survived the bombing. Malik bombed Taurus, not Malgus, Malik, and one of your missions is to go rescue her, basically.
Yeah, and so
Satel
Shan, she was just a young apprentice. She had a master. I don't know his name, but it's in one of the Star Wars: The Old Republic trailers. Dad, I don't think you remember it that well. Malgus has an apprentice. I don't know his name either, but they fight Satel Shan and their master, and his master said you must go a different path, and he fights both Sith. He doesn't kill Malgus' apprentice, but he just got taken down, couldn't fight, and then Malgus kills Satel Shan's master, and then Malgus kills his apprentice for failing him. And after that, there's a war where Satel Shan is back. She's more trained. She fights Malgus. And we don't know who specifically won. Well, she won.
Yeah.
But, if it's a one-on-one fight, I wouldn't know who would win.
Be a tough battle.
Yeah. Well, I think...
Satel Shan wins this battle, right?
But I think Malgus was going to kill her.
The trooper was there helping Satel.
I forgot to include another part. One part, he gets, exploded by a bomb.
Yeah.
And it leaves, a giant bruise on his face. Then he gets exploded by another bomb.
Yeah.
And then he gets force pushed into a wall.
Right.
And he hardly survives, so his face is all messed up. And now he has this awesome mask on his face.
So he reminds me, the way he looks reminds me a little bit of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Except he doesn't have the top part of the helmet.
Yeah,
it's like if you took the top part of Vader's helmet off and you could see his head and his eyes.
Yeah.
That's what Malgus kind of looks like, because he's got a breathing mask and he's got this scarred skin and he's kind of pale. He looks really cool. I think Malgus is a very interesting character. I've read the books too that came out when the game came out, and he's very interesting in those books too.
But he's never in the game.
That's the problem. That's why I couldn't put him on my list. They don't feature him in the game enough in interesting ways. They only use him for PvP, flashpoints, not PvP. Sorry, flashpoints where you're
He's also
playing
in
with
PvP too.
Oh, okay, I don't do that, but. And I don't do flashpoints, and there's not enough story in those to make him interesting. All he does is tell you the missions.
There's no story to him at all.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And then after you beat the game for the first time and you defeat the Emperor.
Spoiler.
Well, that's the point of the game.
Yeah.
Defeat the Emperor. Malgus becomes the new Emperor, and they don't even really explain how or how long. They only explain that he lost it, and Darth Mar took over. And Darth Mar is cool too, but Malgus is cooler, and they could have done so much with him, and they just didn't. So that's why he's not on my list. But he is very interesting in the books, and he does look cool. And in the trailers, he kicked ass. And in all the trailers, he was awesome.
He's throwing his lightsaber and at the same time kicking somebody in the face, and then he'll shock somebody with his hand, and he just kill 20 people in the span of 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And what I also really like about his fighting style is I like tanky guys. I like having lots of armor and attracting all the attention and just fighting everybody, and while everybody else is taking them down with me. And so he reminds me of Tulak Horde, his fighting style too. They're very heavy armored. They strike. Sometimes they can strike really slow, but super powerful.
Heavy strikes with their lightsabers. Yeah. He does. He looks really cool when he battles. Both trailers when he's fighting, I'm like, whoa! And the game, when you pre-order the special edition, comes with a Malgus statue, which I have up there on my shelf,
right there.
And it's really cool. I just wish they had used him more in the story of the game.
And also, the rest of his story, he wanted to change. Well, it's law time ago, and really back then, Sith only allowed humans, not aliens, to be Sith.
That's kind of the same with the Sith universe or the Empire. The Emperor in the movies preferred humans over aliens.
Yeah, and he wanted to take over just everything, and so he even helped the Jedi win a world war.
Battle, yeah.
Yeah,
so he was kind of a progressive Sith, I guess you could call it, that was open to ideas. He was intelligent. Like I said, they just didn't use him enough.
And we read an article and found out how he died.
Yeah.
And people studied about him. Darth Bane, another character, thousands of years later. And 1,000 years later than that, Darth Vader, which you probably at least heard of, studied about Malgus. And Malgus, there's this group of Sith or Jedi. Was it Sith? Yeah, it was Sith. And they went down to kill Malgus. And Malgus was just one person, and there was a group of Sith. Although, we know 2 people. I can't remember their names that were in the group. We don't know if Darth Maul was in the group or somebody like that. And as well, they were fighting on a ship, and they threw pulse grenades to back him up, leading to fall to his death.
Yeah. So maybe there's room for him to still be alive. I mean, they just didn't conclude it.
Use it enough.
And they're releasing new chapters, and maybe he'll pop up somewhere. I hope he does. All right, we're going to move on to my number 5, unless you guys have anything else to say about Malgus.
Pretty good.
No? Okay, my number 5 is another Sith. All 3 of us picked Sith for number 5. I have Darth Nihilus.
Honorable mention for me, by the way.
Okay. Did you make your list, Jett?
Yeah.
Okay, what number is he on yours?
3.
Okay, so my number 5, just background for our listeners. He is from Knights of the Old Republic 2, which is a video game that came out in like 2006 or 7 or something like that. He is part of what's called the Triumvirate of Sith Lords. So there were 3 of them. That's what that word means. The other 2, Darth Sion and Darth Traya, were also both very interesting characters. But
Traya is amazing, by the way.
She is. But Nihilus, in my opinion, is more interesting. And Sion, all 3 of them could have made my list. They're all great. It was a great game. But I picked Nihilus for this list. He is amazingly creepy. He wears this awesome mask. His face is a mystery. And his voice is creepy AF.
Deep and dark.
So it's basically a lot of that. It's just in the game when like you finally confront him and you hear him talk and like this weird sound comes out, and he's such a mystery during the game. Just really cool.
I believe that he's way more powerful than Darth Sion, because in the game he just destroys him, but he keeps
that was a
coming.
cutscene from the game.
Yeah,
It
but
didn't
he just keeps getting back up. Darth Sion.
Yeah, Sion he
He
can regenerate kind of, so it's tough to beat him. But I'll give you some history on the character, because I don't even know if you guys know this, and it's kind of interesting. His origins are unknown, but I think he's a human, which you can't tell from looking at him. He wears that mask, and
you see like a mouth and like a jaw.
But his skin,
figure,
though,
like,
his
it's
skin,
like all
though,
black,
that you can kind of see around where his eyes are, does not look human.
Not at all.
So what I found out about him was that he was on the planet Malachor. Malachor, you guys have recently discovered through Rebels, because they featured it on Rebels, okay? In the game, he is part of the, I don't know if he was fighting in it, but he was on the planet Malachor during the Jedi Civil War / Mandalorian War. And he is the way he is because he's led a very tortured life as a result of what happened on Malachor. To end that battle, I guess if you want to call them the good guys, the guys that worked the Mandalorians, the guys that Revan was leading, they set off a bomb. It wasn't a bomb. It was a weapon called the Mass Shadow Generator. And it destroyed almost all the life on the entire planet, which I think is what Rebels was kind of alluding to when they had it on the show. So, they set off this super weapon, and it killed almost all the life on the planet, and he survived. And there were a few other survivors as well. But something about surviving that changed Nihilus. He lost everything. He lost his family, his friends, everything. And when he awoke, his body craved Force energy. So, on accident, he absorbed the Force energy of another survivor that was near him, and he felt disgusted by it because he killed that person when he did it. But his body needed it more after that happened, and every time he did this, his body needed it more and more. So he went around and just started absorbing the Force energy of all the survivors on Malachor, and it became like a sickness, like a drug. He was addicted, and the affliction ravaged his body. It made him what they called a wound in the Force, whatever that means. But that's how they described him in the game. So kind of naturally, this led him to the dark side of the Force, and his affliction became more and more powerful, and he was forced to find a way to bind his spirit in his mask. That's how he survived. And he had to use dark side energy to do that. That's not a natural thing. So he became kind of a dark Force user on his own, and then Darth Traya found him and trained him in some ways and made him a Sith Lord, and he was part of the Triumvirate. Darth Traya is a character that you speak to a lot in Knights of the Old Republic 2, and you don't know she's a Sith Lord yet, and she goes by the name Kreia, which is similar but different. And
I like her a lot. She's really cool.
She's really cool. And when you're learning about Nihilus, she says, the less said of that one, the better. Even a stray thought may draw him. So even she was scared of him. Super powerful. He devastated an entire planet called Qatar. He drained the Force energy from the Jedi that were there and every being on that planet, with the exception of one person named Visas
So
Mar,
he's so powerful.
who becomes your companion. Yeah, he's super powerful. He's super creepy. It's like the only thing that drives him is his affliction, his sickness that's tortured him and made him become the way he is. And because of it, he is like super scary, because there's like it's like animalistic, right? There's no thought process that goes into that can
it
save
just
him.
has to happen, or there's no not happening. It's
I kind of compare it to like a junkie.
Oh, okay. So you just explained the story. I was thinking of a whole different way of thinking. Can I tell you it?
Yeah, go ahead. He's on your list too, right?
Yeah. So I was thinking. I didn't read like an article on it or anything. I was just like thinking something totally different. Well, I predicted that I predicted that he died, and somehow like he found some power. As you know, you're a ghost when you die, and so I just thought that he would come. He somehow came back to life, but when he came back to life, like something happened to his voice, and now he speaks like that. And what I thought, he tried to explain these powers to the Sith, but they couldn't understand it.
Oh.
And so that's just an observation I had, and I think Revan killed him, and he couldn't figure out the power again.
Revan didn't kill him, because this was in Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Well, execute, whatever his name is, that's a Pokemon.
The Exile.
Yeah, Exile.
Yeah.
Execute is Pokemon.
So, yeah, I mean, he's not even the main antagonist in that game, but he's the most interesting and compelling one to me, and I just thought he was awesome.
Yeah.
I have one more thing about him to say.
Sure.
Is that I was talking to my friend who also loves Star Wars, and he said that when I talked to him about Nihilus, he went home and studied Nihilus, because that's what he does in his time. He studies Star Wars. And so he looked up Nihilus, and he came to the school next day, and he said, I referred to him as a mistake in the Force. Like, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen, but we can't change it now. It's too late. Like,
yeah, he's so creepy, and he looks really cool. The mask is so cool.
Menacing also.
Yeah,
like,
very menacing looking.
Like, if it was a Star Wars universe right now, and I saw him, like, pop up, like, even from a far distance, I'd be like, I'm off this planet, like,
honestly,
right now.
Like, Star Wars is not like a scary type movie, but he is the scariest character I've encountered in any Star Wars medium there is. Like,
no doubt.
He creeps me out. When you're playing the game, he's creepy. It's a little, like, it kind of gives you the chills a little bit. So, because of that, he made my list.
There's no way of stopping him.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. All right, let's go to number 4. Kate, who do you got?
My number 4 is Darth Malak, another Sith.
And another Knights of the Old Republic character.
Yes.
Wait, he's my number 2.
Okay.
So
Is he on your...
He did not make my list.
Really?
Yeah.
It's surprising to me.
I'll tell you why after, but you guys go ahead and talk about it.
Alright, so Darth Malak I'm reading a book about him with Revan, so I know some information about him. Darth Malak is Revan's apprentice.
Correct.
And
Revan, though, we should probably explain real quick.
Yeah, but he's my number 1. I want to save it.
Okay, I won't talk about
same.
Revan, and me too, right? Okay, but
Okay.
Knights of the Old Republic is a video game from 2004. It was an Xbox game and a PC game, and the people who played it absolutely love it. It's like got a hardcore fan following for the people who played it. Me personally, I like the story better than the movies, and I love the movies. They're like my favorite movies, so it says a lot about how highly I think of this game. Revan's the main character. Malak is Revan's apprentice in that game. So he's a Sith. He's a bad guy, right?
Yes.
Okay, so continue. I was just giving some background.
So Malak was Revan's apprentice, and after Revan found the Sith artifact, and when that happened, Malak decided to turn to the dark side and just completely leave Revan in pieces, and it's a mystery on how he got his, like, your mouth part and your chin, got that cut off.
Revan did it to him.
Yeah, and you would think he's dead, but
Like, who would survive that?
I don't know if somebody like picked him up or put him on a thing. He put these 3 things on him, which made him breathe and talk. Then he put this awesome mask.
So he basically, just to describe what he looks like, he has the bottom half of his face is missing, like from below his nose down. Maybe he still has the top part of his mouth.
It's like half of his nose is actually gone.
But I don't know about that. I think it's like from his lip down.
His nose is there.
Yeah, but he wears this mask that's kind of looks like a jaw. The mask does, right? It completes his face.
It's like metal.
But when it was metal, and when he takes it off, he's got nothing there.
But there's no like lumps or like bumps to make it look like it's like a mouth or anything. It's just like covering.
No, there's something there.
He's got like the top half is still there.
He has like these 3 like robotic things to make him breathe or talk or stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
He looks really cool, and he's bald, and he's got these like stripes down the top of his head.
Blue lines.
He wears kind of like a tight-fitting, dark reddish.
Yeah, it has like little like designs like carved into it.
Yeah,
it looks really cool, and like that completes it. Because if you look at the detail they put into his mask, it looks amazing. Because like there's like so many like little lines, and it's all symmetrical on each side, so it really matches.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like Malik is cool to me because he's part of the story that I love from Knights of the Old Republic, and he looks really cool. The reason he's not on my list, I didn't even consider him for my list. The one complaint I have about that game is that he is the main antagonist. He's the bad guy that you fight, and he's like not even that powerful, really. Like he was Revan's apprentice. He only became the master because he shot down Revan's ship when Revan was being attacked by 5 Jedi at one time and winning. And Revan is the powerful guy. Malik is not. And he, to me, for an epic game, epic story, it took me 60 hours to beat that game. And I get to the end and like, I'm fighting Malik. And I'm like, well, Revan was already Malik's master anyways. Like, it'd kind of be like, what if Count Dooku was the main bad guy that Yoda had to fight at the end of Revenge of the Sith. He was just the Emperor's apprentice. Like, I mean, he's cool. Don't get me wrong. It made for interesting storytelling and good battle when it happened. But as the main guy at the end, I was a little bit disappointed in Malik as the main villain. But that being said, I still like him, but I don't have him on my list.
True.
Anything else to say about Malik?
No.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing actually is that he seems like, I always talk about the fighting styles because I like how people fight. Darth Malgus and Darth and Tulak Horde. They're all like, they're very tanky, very heavily armored. I consider Malik more like a damage guy. He's not like super big. He's not like,
no way. He's not big. A damage.
Is he?
He's big. I wouldn't consider him a tank though. I would consider him DPS damage guy, but he's big. He's a big, muscular guy. Yeah.
There's no way.
Even his comic book character before, he was a Jedi before he became a Sith. And he was Revan's friend as a Jedi before they both became Sith.
I do that.
And his name was Alec. And he was a big, muscular guy. I mean, he's always been big. But he doesn't wear the big, heavy armor, I think is what you're saying.
So he is a tank. Definitely not a tank.
I call him a damage.
I call him a damage.
He's not a healer. Certainly, he's a damage.
I don't know if anybody, like, what we're going to talk about, would you consider a healer? That's kind of more of a Star Wars game based. Like, there's not, like, a person in the movies.
I might consider, like, a Qui-Gon type to be a healer type, where he's very introspective and he thinks about the Force a lot.
Meditates.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I learned. Count Dooku, General Grievous' master is Count Dooku. Count Dooku trained Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan, and Yoda trained Dooku. Yeah. So all that Jedi knowledge in Count Dooku, I actually like Count Dooku a lot more. I've been thinking about him for the past days. That I like him a lot more because he's awesome. He's Yoda's apprentice, turned to the dark side. Nobody knows why, but I think he wanted more power because in number 2 he said, "I'm more powerful than any Jedi, even you."
He was very arrogant.
Yeah.
And he thought that his way was the best way, and if the
Yeah.
Jedi didn't agree with it, that's why he left.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he was recruited to the dark side while he was still a Jedi, or if it was after he left. Personally, I think it was after he left because Emperor already had Darth Maul.
Yeah.
And then maybe had kind of been keeping his eye on Dooku as a backup, and then he saw the opportunity and he went and recruited him.
And then
You know, I think you like him a lot, Jett. It's because of his backstory. And then again, with his backstory, it tells it, and then Expanded Universe just completely gives it all out.
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, he gets a lot of expanded universe story, and so a lot of it comes in the novels, which are not considered expanded universe. They're considered canon, like the movies, but the movies can't include all the stuff that the novel can, right? Because it's longer and more
Yeah.
detailed.
yeah. So I also realized, Qui-Gon Jinn, number 1 got killed by Maul.
Yeah, in the Phantom Menace.
Even though he's in only one movie and he got killed, he is big in Star Wars.
He is big.
He's in the shows. I think he's even in the new movie Star Wars The Force Awakens.
His voice is.
Yeah, his voice is in. He's a big character.
He is. And part of it is because the actor who played Qui-Gon,
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, is a very memorable and talented actor.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And in some movies that needed talented actors,
That
right?
needed
And also,
Liam Neeson.
I
Right.
don't know if you agree about me, but number 1,
The Phantom Menace.
yeah, and Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan is kind of like kind of a serious Jedi,
Yeah.
And number 2, he's still kind of serious. And number 3, he seems kind of like a smart Jedi,
Well, there's a lot of
And
time that
wise.
passes.
Yeah, and then if you look at Qui-Gon, he's kind of smart too,
He was very wise.
Yeah, he's very wise and smart. So I think Obi-Wan gained that knowledge and maybe spoke to the Force and his ghost to learn that power.
He couldn't speak to his ghost yet. He didn't learn how to do that yet.
Yeah.
Not until the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Saying we're getting
when Yoda
really off
teaches him.
track.
Yeah, we are way off track.
I have no idea where we started from. Or
Let's get back on track. We'll go to my number 4.
Wait, my number. I forgot to say. No, can't explain my number 4 because it's Satel Shan.
Satel Shan's your number 4? I
Yeah.
thought, who did we just talk about? That was all your number 4, Kate?
Yeah,
it was Malik.
number
Oh,
4 was
geez.
Malik, and Malik
Okay,
is
so
my number
yours-
2.
Your number 4 is Satel Shan, who you've
Yeah.
already talked about some
Yeah.
because she's related to Malgus, who is your number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so would you like to expand on that anymore? I mean, we talked about her quite a bit.
Well,
Well,
no,
I was
not
saving
really.
a little bit because she's my number 3.
Oh wow, you guys both had her on your list.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Again, she's from the Old Republic, which is the third part, if you want to call it a sequel to Knights of the Old Republic. It's an online, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG, and she is the Grand Master Jedi in that game.
I learned a lot of story from her throughout playing a lot of Jedis and different types of Jedis and choosing different stories on Jedis. And she is so cool. And she gets so much wiser and so much more powerful in the Force. Just not lightsaber fighting, just in the Force and how to use it and what it can be used for.
Yeah.
To give other people knowledge and stuff like that. She was really powerful in the Force, And so never mind. I did not say that. Okay. And
At least you caught yourself that time.
true. And so she is so powerful, and in the trailer she is really cool too.
Yeah.
She just
Malgus.
runs.
If Malgus is cooler, why do you have her ranked in front of Malgus on your list?
I like her better, but this may
See,
sound
I agree. I don't have
wait,
either one on my list, but
wait,
I agree Malgus is cooler.
I think Malgus is cooler, but I have to admit, I always just think of movies and why I like them better because of the action in it. And
Yeah.
I say Satel Shan's story is better than Malgus. And
Yeah, you're right
I
about
think
that.
Malgus is cooler only because of his lightsaber skills. I don't care about that. I want to know about the story
Okay,
now.
that's a good point, and she has a lot more story in
Yeah.
the game than Malgus does. I will say, I'm kind of biased against Satel Shan because when that game was being developed, and I was super excited because I loved Knights of the Old Republic,
Yeah.
right? And then I heard this one was going to be an MMORPG, and I was sad. I was like, oh, great, an MMO. I don't want to play Warcraft. I want story.
Yeah.
I want a role-playing game. Well, they did a good job making it both, okay? But I
Love
was
story.
convinced that Satel Shan would be the love interest of my character because Bastila Shan was the love interest of my character in Knights of the Old Republic.
So you were
And they made her a pretty a pretty girl who's a Jedi and who's powerful. I'm like, oh, cool. This is going to be the love story. And it's not. It's not at all. You have very little interaction with her. Every now and then she pops in and says, hey, do this, and then she leaves until you get to the expanded, like,
if you're a
the
Jedi consular, she's in it a lot.
Yeah, she is in it a lot.
I've never played as a consular, but I was disappointed that she wasn't the love interest and wasn't involved in the story the way I thought she was going to be. So I never really latched onto her character very much.
And she just caught my attention right away in the trailers. Like, I was like, oh, and she actually took my. It goes back and forth as my number one favorite girl character in all of Star Wars at all.
Between her and who?
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's really cool. Yeah.
And so I always loved Ahsoka. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Ahsoka
And so
is awesome.
I was like, right now, as of,
Wait, are you talking
currently-
about non-canon?
Just
in all of Star Wars.
Ahsoka is canon.
Hello?
Because she's from the
Leia?
Clone Wars. Leia, yeah.
I know.
Padme.
Well, not Padme.
I
She's not
still-
in that much.
I still put, I forgot her name, the girl bad guy from Kade Skywalker's.
Oh, yeah. Darth Talon.
Yeah, I know her.
Talent is amazing. Yeah. She is so cool.
She's a
She's
Zabrak.
an alien.
She's a Darth Maul alien who's
She's
like
not a Zabrak, Daddy.
she's got the same skin, the tattooed skin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but she has the thing.
but she has the Leku.
Twi'lek.
So,
She,
yeah.
she has the
Twi'lek or Twi'lek?
I say Twilight.
she has the lines on her head.
Yeah, she's hot.
Yeah.
Like really hot.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like red and black, but like
You need to
Darth
read-
Maul and a hot version of a girl, not
Dude,
really.
you need to
need
read the
Kade
comics.
Skywalker series. It's
Dude,
insane.
I've seen her on the cover of Kade Skywalker.
Yeah.
She is so hot. Her and the other girl from that series, Delia Blue, who is Kate Skywalker's girlfriend, is also really hot. They're both of them are like crazy hot.
And-
What's it called? Shay Vizsla's hotter.
Shay Vizsla's very hot.
All right.
And so
We should have a 5-to-1 hot characters from
Hot,
Star
yeah.
Wars.
like there's a lot. But
Padme.
Padme's pretty.
sticking to Satel Shan, she's one of my favorite Jedi of all time. And I loved it when you see her again in style and at the end, towards the end of the chapters that are in right now.
spoilers.
Star Wars
Yeah.
Europa.
Don't make it into spoiler.
What's it called? The
planet they're on.
Knights of the Fallen Empire.
Yes.
Yeah, she plays a pretty decent sized role in that, and I liked that part. I liked interacting with her, and she's working with Darth Mar.
They used to date. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
One of my choices, it said, so you two dated, and so it said, my character said, were you two ever in a relationship? And they were like, we've tried many times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I
They
know
say
that she
that-
dated. You know that trooper, the one that's in the trailer that gets.
Yeah.
They dated because he's the father of Theron Shan.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's in the books.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Me either.
And so I remember
She's
when...
dated a lot of people.
She gets around.
So Darth Maul, they were talking to each other, and they're like, we hate each other, but the Force is, like, making us together.
Work
like,
together, yeah.
Like, and whenever we're together, we're powerful. And I was like, I wonder if they were ever, like, on the same side of the Force, like, not dark side or light side, just on the Force side, or, like, dark side or light side. They were ever working together, and, like, we're, like, super powerful. I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
and pondering about this, so...
Well, Darth Maul, we've explained a little bit about him, but I think, kind of what happened in Revenge of the Sith, how Darth Sidious kind of showed a little bits of the dark side.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of the same thing with Darth Maul, where, like, Satoshi, like, is keep teaming up with Darth Maul, and you see the way of the light side a little bit.
I think that they both realize that you can work together, dark side and light side, for a common goal and put away your differences.
Yeah.
And you might not agree on everything. And they had a common enemy. That was the main thing, is that they
That's
had...
what drove the Empire and the Republic to work together in the first place in
Yeah.
the series.
So the enemy of my enemy is your enemy is my friend.
Sure.
Okay, let's move on. We've taken way too long to get through our choices so far, and it's getting late. I'm going to go to my number 4, Darth Bane.
Honorable mention for mine.
This is the thing with Darth Bane, is that he's canon now officially because he was in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, he's in the Clone Wars.
His vision was in the Clone Wars when Yoda talked to him on Moraband/Korriban.
Yeah.
So, but he has traditionally been an expanded universe character forever. He's got 3 books that are part of a trilogy that are awesome. They are my favorite expanded universe books that exist. They are really good.
Yeah, and the Clone Wars appearance is so awesome. So Yoda goes to his ancient temple.
Ancient. not Asian.
Temple. And he opens like this box or something. There's like just fire everywhere and flames, and then it shows. Yeah, it's an awesome mask, by the way. And he's like looking at this, kind of like a scarecrow moving his arms.
Yeah,
but squiggly.
Like one of those one of those things that they have in front of the a building.
Broccoli inflatable or
the inflatable.
And then he's doing this, and he's like,
I like the one that twerks.
I forgot what he said. It's something like, "I am Darth Bane," something like that. It's so awesome. And then like Yoda closes the box. It
is very cool. But before he was on the Clone Wars, he was already really awesome in the expanded universe. Just a brief bio. He is the Sith Lord that created the rule of two, a master and apprentice. When he first became a Sith, he was a very physically powerful guy, a big muscular guy that could.
Try to guess what episode this is from. As you know, the Sith rules there could only be two. You probably
I don't know. You're
it's
probably
from Clone Wars.
It. Okay.
It's from Clone Wars. It's when Darth Maul survives, get cut in half, and then he fights Darth Sidious. And
let's not get sidetracked into this too much.
And then
we're going really far.
And then he kills Savage, and then he jumps and he goes, "You're now an enemy. There can only be two."
I mean, it comes up in the movie several times. They say there's always two. He is the one who created that rule about 1,000 years before the movies. So not as far as back as the Knights of the Old Republic stuff that have been all of our other choices so far, but about 1,000 years before, when he became a Sith, there were hundreds of Sith, and he thought it made the Sith weaker because, let's say you had one Sith who was really powerful and became the leader. 10 other weaker Sith could then team together and take that guy down. So they're constantly taking down their most powerful, because the Sith is kind of a selfish mentality anyways. They want power for themselves. So when somebody else who is more powerful gets in charge, 10 other people can team up and take them down. It makes the whole Sith weaker if you're always taking down your most powerful guy. So he did a lot of research studying ancient Sith holocrons. He found one by Revan that was made by Revan, and got the idea of the rule of two from that holocron. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to make it happen. And he killed all hundreds of the Sith leaders until it was just him left. And then he went and found an apprentice.
That's pretty awesome.
One to hold the power and the other to crave it is the rule. So once the apprentice is powerful enough to take down the master should be taken down, because then the Sith gets stronger by having somebody more powerful in charge. That was his mentality.
But there's a problem with that. They keep killing all their masters, and they're all just masters. They only have 100 Sith left.
No. See, that's how it was before he did this.
Oh.
Now there's only two. One to hold the power, the other to crave it. Once the one that craves it is powerful enough to take down the leader, they become the leader, and they get an apprentice.
Why would they
have no use anymore? They're not the most powerful.
Yeah, but why would the master ever train them then?
Because they believe in the Sith idea that the Sith is the correct way to live life and that they should rule the galaxy. So Bane started this 1,000 years later. Palpatine finished it, right? I mean, there were generations of Sith that passed down from Bane to Palpatine, a direct lineage of a master and apprentice, two at a time, all the way down to Sidious. So Sidious' master was Plagueis. Plagueis had a master whose name I can't remember. That person had a master, and so on. It goes all the way back to Bane.
It's like in real life, where your dad has a dad, and that dad has a dad.
I think I remember looking up Darth Sion's master. He's isn't he the same alien as Kit Fisto?
Darth Sion?
Not Sion. Plagueis.
A Nautilin? I don't think so, but maybe. I think
he looked like it.
I think Plagueis was a moon, which is kind of with the long faces.
Yeah.
And his master was a Bith, which are, if you think to the cantina scene in Jabba's palace when they had those guys that were playing the instruments and they all had the big round heads and the black eyes, those guys were Bith. And that's what Plagueis' master was, but I cannot remember his name right now. I'll have to look it up later.
Just call him the Bith Master.
Because it rhymes with Sith.
The Bith Master.
Yeah. So, also, by having just two, the Sith could live in secret. Because they weren't out in the open, they could plan and have their schemes come to fruition and do it secretly. He got an apprentice who became strong enough and eventually defeated Darth Bane. Darth Zana.
Also, more than often, Sith fight each other, and I'll be like, oh, are these two guys, is one of them gonna one of them turning the light side or becoming a good. And no, they're just killing them for fun,
not for fun.
Not for if they're mad at them or
Look, the weaker Sith will kill for fun. The stronger Sith kill for a purpose, right? To make them stronger, or to take some power that they need, or to help them advance their goals, right?
Or kill all their family and say, I'll kill you too if you join the dark side.
See, I don't know any examples of that, but that wouldn't be less interesting story to me than somebody who has a purpose, like Bane. His books go into great detail with that. His story is so rich that, to me, he's movie worthy. They could make a movie about him, and it would be really good.
Yeah, I can make
even
a movie about Raven.
All the story, it'll still be good.
Honestly,
what's crazy for me to think about is 1,000 years. Bane exists 1,000 years before the movies. That is only 100 years before Yoda. So I wonder if there was any overlap between Bane and Yoda.
Or
because he lived to be 900 years old, right?
That is true.
Maybe Yoda was a Sith, then he turned into a Jedi.
No, he's.
Hey, wait. In the Clone Wars, it's an old episode. All right.
You see the dark side Yoda?
Yeah, you see the dark side of Yoda.
That's because the point of that episode was to say, for Yoda to realize that every Jedi, every person
has a dark side.
Has a dark side inside them, or some tendency for it, and he has to face it and confront it and say, I don't want to be that, right? He can't be so arrogant to think he knows everything. He too has a dark side.
He is wise,
I was
even
gonna
though
say something.
He's
oh yeah. Speaking of dark side and light side, I just thought of, because I remember, we're going back to Satoshi just for a second here, because we're dealing with dark side and light side, sides of the Force and somebody. I think she was once thinking, or maybe once the dark side, because she said like I remember when I first awoke from the carbonite and she was outside and I just wanted to talk to her. I was like, what are you doing here? Where am I? Who am I? And so she's like, for a long time I've known many ways of the Force. I was like, and I remember now, like, does that mean she was, because she said that she's like, she's been with she's known Mar for a long time, and the Force brought them together. So I was just
maybe the whole point, we already talked about it, was that they worked together. It wasn't dark side Sith versus Jedi. It was just working together against a common enemy. All right, let's move on. We really got to get moving. Number 3, Kade.
Where's your list, Kade?
Satoshi.
Okay, we talked about her a lot.
Number
Jett, you're
2.
number 3.
I thought we already went through number 3.
My list. We've already explained it.
Okay, good. My number 3, Marka Ragnos.
Sounds super familiar. I think I remember.
Okay, so
no noise.
When you did Tulak Horde, I told you I considered a lot of ancient Sith also.
Yeah.
He's the one that I picked, okay? So there were other choices that I considered, like Naga Sadow and Ludo Kresh and Freedon Nad and Exar Kun. All really interesting. All have great stories in comic books and video games. They all, though, get their power or some sort of wisdom from Marka Ragnos. He was the last great emperor of the Sith planet of Korriban, and what they call the Golden Age of the Sith. Before, when he died, then everything kind of went chaotic, and they had battles to who was going to be the leader. His spirit exists in like every expanded universe comic you read and every video game. There's always some Sith going to Marka Ragnos' spirit for information, or a holocron of some sort to get information from him.
You think Revan did that?
Huh?
You think Revan did that?
Probably. I know. I told you already. I know Revan went into his tomb as part of the game to find an artifact.
Yeah, maybe it was his.
He's known as the first great Sith Lord and the last one of the Sith Golden Age. The thing is, though, most of the stories, in fact, all the stories that I know about him, all came after his death. I don't know anything about his life except that he ruled Korriban for a while. But in his death, everybody goes to him for information. He's known as one of the most powerful Jedi or Sith to ever exist. And since we're trying to hurry, I'm going to skip a lot of this other back info and just say he looks awesome, and he didn't use a lightsaber. He used a Sith sword.
A vibra sword.
No, a Sith sword.
What? What is a sword?
It's what Marka Ragnos used. It's cool.
I need to
It
see a
sounds
picture
really
later.
dumb.
I'll have to show you later. It's like a Sith. So it's a sword imbued with dark side energy, basically.
So basically, I'm assuming it'll look like the sword I have in Destiny called the Dread Fang.
Okay,
Be
we're not talking
quiet. I
Destiny
hate
on here.
Destiny.
Let's move on. Kate, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Kade Skywalker.
He is my number 2 also.
Yay!
He's not even on my list.
Oh.
Okay, why is he your number 2, Kade?
One, starting off, he's my name.
Yeah.
And he's a Skywalker, which just already makes him look really cool.
The only difference is he spells it with a C.
Yeah. Well, you can just draw a line on the left side of the C to make it look like a really bad drawn K.
Like your handwriting?
Basically.
Yeah.
And that's what they do every time I go to like wrestling tournaments or when teachers spell my name for the first time. They'll write Kade Moore. I'll be like, it's a K. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And then they'll mark on the side.
Yeah.
And so to make it look like a K.
Gotcha.
And so I've read all his comics.
So he's, just a little background, he is the main protagonist, the main character from the Legacy comic series. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how...
He's a direct descendant of Luke Skywalker, like
Yes.
several generations down. I'm not sure how many years.
I think
but
it's like...
I think it's like 140 years or something like that after the movies.
Yeah, so it's like great-great-great-grandfather. Something like that. I know,
Yeah.
I remember in the comics he speaks to him.
Yeah, his spirit.
Yeah, spirit. They just talk sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I like his story when he starts off as a Jedi in training, and his father dies in battle.
Yeah.
And he leaves on a ship, and then every guy dies on the ship, and he's like not a Jedi anymore. He's like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm not gonna try to be this anymore. He becomes like a bounty hunter type, smuggler.
He's a bounty hunter, a smuggler, and a Jedi. He's like Han Solo and Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker in one character, basically.
And so, like, I like when, like, he'll use his blaster, and then when he's in trouble, he'll whip out his lightsaber and just kill everybody.
So your notes sound similar to mine. He's got awesome force powers. He can bring people back from death, although it really hurts him to do so. He's one of the few that have ever been able to do that using the Force.
Do you think Marco Ragnos could do that?
I don't know. But he's not a Jedi by choice. He just acts like one sometimes. So he's got, like... I'll tell you why I liked him. He's a loner, and he hates it when people do things for him or make sacrifices for him. And he's like good at heart, right? But he's also reckless, and he's fueled by his emotions, which is like Anakin, right? And that when you're a Jedi and you have powers and you live your life that way, that's a dangerous thing for people around you.
Very, very risky.
So he pushed people away. He always skirted the line between dark and light. And what was cool about him is that he was known, and it says this in the comics, he's known for being the only one that could walk so close to the dark side and use it sometimes while resisting the power of its lure. So he never went full on dark. He was able to resist it, even though he used it sometimes to do what he needed to do. The way he looked, the way I describe it, he's a Jedi-fied version of Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Were you really?
I was like, he looks like Kurt
exactly
Cobain.
what
Like,
I was gonna say.
I thought I was the only one. I never talked to you about this.
like, he looks like Kurt Cobain, sort of like.
He's got long blonde hair.
Yeah.
He's got a little goatee.
He kind of
jaw looks like Kurt Cobain's. Like,
yeah, he's just like
he's like his facial features.
he's just like bigger and stronger. Like, because Kurt Cobain was rail thin and looked sickly, but he was still handsome, right?
Yeah.
Kade Skywalker is handsome too, but not so like druggy thin, junky thin.
Well, he does take a lot of drugs.
He does. He uses death sticks.
So many.
Yeah, so he's like tormented. He lives like a tormented life, right? And somehow manages to make good choices most of the time, although they are self-serving. They're choices for him, but they're usually they align with the correct side. He had 2 super hot girlfriends, Delia Blue and Darth Talon, who was his enemy most of the time, but his girlfriend for a little while. Really cool. He's kind of like a rock star. I think he would make a very interesting movie character too.
Also, there's another character. I don't know. He's a made-up character by a guy. It was before Kylo Ren, was planned, and so it's just a character.
So it's expanded universe before the movie came out.
He doesn't actually exist. It's just
Jason Solo.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, where
he's in a lot of the books.
He's a really powerful Jedi.
His story is like Anakin's.
And then he turns to the dark side, and he knows to be more powerful than Darth Vader.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't like those books. That's the part of the expanded universe that I say, I don't want this to be part of my canon.
Because it's like
silly.
Exactly.
They have 3 kids. It's Jason. They have a kid named Anakin Solo. I'm like, come on, you can't.
You just ran out of names.
You need to get more original than that.
You gotta.
Luke has a wife, which I might be okay with, but the way they did it, and she's one of the most popular EU characters. If you asked 100 hardcore Star Wars fans to make a list like this, she would be on a lot of them. Her name's Mara Jade. I don't like her at all, And neither does George Lucas. He even said it, like, that person would never make my movies, you know? And Jason Solo was not, his story was Anakin's story. It was the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying I liked him.
Generation.
I learned him from what's it called? From a video of top 10 most powerful Jedi of all time, which was kind of stupid.
Cross him out. He doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
He's not in my canon.
The video was
He never
stupid
happened.
because number 5 was Revan, which I'll talk about him in a minute, and Obi-Wan was alright. Obi-Wan was like number 7 on his list, 6 or 5. And
Obi-Wan's awesome.
And then for number 5, Mace Windu. I just started jumping around and being.
He is super powerful.
Yeah, but he placed him over Revan and Yoda.
Well, not over Yoda,
Yeah.
for sure. But.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Jet, who's your number 2?
I already went over him,
Who was it?
Malik.
Okay.
Okay.
So on to number 1, we can all say it.
All right, Revan.
Revan.
All right, so
Just-
Revan.
So, hold on. Let me give a little background before you talk about him for our listeners who aren't familiar. We talked about Knights of the Old Republic a lot. He is, without spoiling too much, he is the main character from the Knights of the Old Republic video game. He is a master in the light side of the dark side. He's a mystery of, was he ever really on the dark side? What purpose was it for? Was he truly Sith, or was he doing it for the benefit of the galaxy? We'll get to that in a minute. He's a mystery. He looks awesome. He's got the coolest armor and mask of anybody to exist in the Star Wars universe, canon or not. They based Kylo Ren's design on him, and it's not nearly as good.
Not nearly. There's so much more detail. There's so much more detail in Revan, and the intricate details, if you look at Revan, is what makes it so good.
Yeah.
Like,
So you guys haven't even played Knights of the Old Republic. You've only played the sequel, the Old Republic,
Yeah, and
which
we've
refers
seen-
to Red.
And
Revan.
we've seen Revan, we're like, holy crap.
You guys know that, like, there is a lot of love for this character. Like, a
and-
lot of love.
yeah.
Fans love this guy. So, Jet, why is he your number
All
1?
right, he's my number 1 because I think he has the most interesting story of all of non-canon characters. So, Revan, he is he was a Jedi that found some Sith artifacts after Malik, betrayed him, and so after he found it, he was hurt, I believe. And then that's when the Jedi Council captured him.
Okay, you're getting some of it wrong. And this is the part that you don't know because you haven't played the game. So why don't you let me tell this part?
All right.
And then you go on, okay?
All right.
He was a Jedi first, and he was very mysterious as a Jedi. In fact, he's in the Revan-kissed is what they call him. He wore a hood over him. You couldn't even see his face ever in the comics. And he had an insatiable lust for knowledge. Like, so much that the masters were like, this could be bad. He wants to know so much that, like, it's a potentially dark side trait because he just wanted more and more and more and more all the time. He was very intelligent as a Jedi, and what happened was the Mandalorians started attacking planets in the galaxy, and the Jedi said, we're not going to get involved in this war. We're not soldiers. We could help people out here and there, but we're not going to fight a war for them, which is the mistake that the Jedi made in Attack of the Clones and what eventually led to their downfall. The Jedi weren't designed to fight wars. They're keepers of the peace. They're not soldiers. So that was the Jedi's decision. Revan disagreed. He said, we can't let the Mandalorians attack all of these other planets and not do anything.
Yeah,
we
I
have
totally
the power
agree.
to help. We should go do it. And they didn't agree. The council didn't agree with him, so he left. He said, fine, peace, I'm out, mic drop. And he leaves, and he takes a bunch of Jedi with him, including Alec, who became Darth Malik, and others who agreed with his philosophy and were bold enough to, like, leave the Jedi Order to go fight the Mandalorians. So while he's out doing this, he's trying to discover ways to beat them. That's when he started searching for what's called the Star Forge, and that's what you're talking about, Jet. It's not really a Sith artifact, but it does use dark side energy. And it can create masses of fleets of ships in a very short amount of time. There's this ancient race called the Rakatans.
love those things.
They're so interesting, and they're called the builders, basically, of the galaxy, and they use these ancient Starforge to help build fleets. And Revan is searching for that. So he goes around the galaxy looking for pieces of the map to find the Starforge, and in order to do that, he has to use the dark side. He has to. So him and Alec, who becomes his apprentice, Darth Malik, go hunt these things down. And apparently they find it, right? And they have this massive fleet to go fight the Mandalorians with. They use the mass shadow generator, which is definitely a dark side weapon, to destroy the planet and basically win the war. But it was like, You can't do something that dark side and not have repercussions on you and everybody around you. So that's when he became full-out Sith.
And when he killed a bunch of the Mandalorians, he took a mask, and that's his mask.
He took the mask. It is his mask from a Mandalorian. He took that before this happened.
Oh.
In a one-on-one battle where he it was like a pride thing. Like kind of like there are some civilizations where if you win a battle one-on-one combat, you get the other person's weapon,
and you cut off his hand and put it in the bag.
It's like if you beat me, I'm going to give you my weapon because you earned it. It's like an honor thing, okay? So he wasn't doing that to it wasn't
show power.
That was not even
conquer.
when he was Sith. That was before this happened. So the other thing though is once he did this, the game. I'm just going to spoil it. I've avoided doing this with you guys forever. You wake up as a character in the game and you don't know who you are. You don't have any memory of who you are, and you go through the game and you are being trained by Basta Lashan, and you're learning all this stuff. And like 3/4 of the way through the game, you find out that you are Revan, that you had your mind wiped. You're by the Jedi Council. So what happened was
that's a really good plan of the story.
It's amazing.
Does it Ballista kind of?
Ballista.
Bastila.
Yeah, that's
She's
who.
a girl in the book.
Bastila is Revan's chick, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened was Revan was being attacked by 5 or 6 Jedi, including Bastila, and he was defeating all of them at one time. When Malik fired on Revan's ship and tried to kill all of them, including Revan, so he could be the master, because that's what Sith do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he becomes the master at that point, and he assumes Revan is dead. He wasn't dead. He survived. Bastila kind of saved him and took him back to the council and argued, we should keep him alive because if we're going to defeat Malik, we're going to need him. We cannot defeat Malik without him. Let's just...
He's in my book.
Yeah. So they wipe his mind, and they train him as a Jedi and hope he doesn't remember who he is. And he does. And in the story, you have the choice of going back to Darth Revan or staying light side Revan. The quote-unquote canon story is the light side
what
story.
Did you choose?
I chose light side.
I would choose dark side.
That's what I would have done.
I would have loved to do that, but it took me 60 hours to play that game. When I only did it, I was only able to because I was sick.
All you gotta do is lick the floor of a gas station 20 times and then stay.
That might kill me. So that's his story. That's and there's a lot more because he's involved in the Old Republic. He has books and he's in the comics. That's the main story. Jett, now that I've given the background, do you want to explain why you picked him as your number one, even though you didn't even know most of the story?
Well, also, I'm wondering, I forgot to put on my list. I totally forgot. But if I remembered, I would probably put him as number 2.
Who?
I forgot about Darth Scourge.
Okay, so he has some story
awesome.
with Revan in the Old Republic.
He's kind
a
of like
Sith.
an arrogant Sith.
Yeah, like a lot of them are.
He's really powerful. And there's just it shows him he's really cool at his sword is cool. He's kind of arrogant, like I said, and I wonder if he's ever gonna fight Revan. But he's in the book I'm reading a lot. I'm reading a Revan book right now.
Yeah. So, Kade, do you have anything to say on Revan?
All out boss at everything in the game. He's some bosses. They can be DPS, healer, or tank. And that's really it. He's all. And he uses
He's not
light side.
tank.
Yeah, he does. He
No,
has
he's
his
not.
tank powers. Yes, he does. I see him do tank powers all the time.
Not
and
me.
he'll do a tank power for a Sith,
DPS.
and then he'll heal himself like a Jedi. He'll use both of in a fight. It's
So
insane.
he has a ton of knowledge, and he's a great battle tactician for fighting large battles, and he's also great at hand-to-hand combat when he's fighting one-on-one. He's kind of a master at everything, is what you're getting at, and I
He's
agree.
known to be the most powerful Sith and Jedi of all time.
Yeah, and
I think he is.
The thing is, okay, so Revan has a ton of fans, right? So when they're making the Old Republic, it's a challenge if you are not going to be Revan and you're going to be your own character who's not Revan. How do you defeat an emperor, the bad guy, who is supposedly more powerful than Revan because that emperor beat Revan? That discredits Revan's story, and people aren't going to buy into that. So what they did was kind of interesting in the book that you're reading, Jett.
Yeah.
They had Revan fight Vitiate, is the emperor's name, and was defeating him, was beating him. When Lord Scourge turns on Revan, he was supposed to be helping Revan, and stabs him in the back, literally, while he's fighting Vitiate. Revan survives, and he's like a prisoner of Vitiate in this, what's that place called in the Flashpoint when you find Revan?
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he's like held up.
Yeah, he's held.
He's stuck.
So Vitiate thinks he's a prisoner there. Revan is actually fighting Vitiate mentally while he's stuck there for 300 years. And the thing that I like about Revan is that, yeah, he was a master of the Sith. He's one of the most powerful Sith. I don't believe he was ever truly Sith. I think he only went dark side for two reasons. One, because he was finding the Starforge, and he needed to find it. And two, he left the galaxy to go explore the unknown regions, is what they call it, the outside of the galaxy, because he knew there was an enemy coming, which ended up being Vitiate. This is before the Old Republic was, right? So he knew there was an enemy coming, and he needed to pose as a Sith to infiltrate Vitiate's army, basically, in order to help to protect the galaxy. So he's making choices that aren't really Jedi choices, and he's posing as a Sith and he's acting as a Sith, but it's for the good of the galaxy.
How does Revan die?
Did he?
Yes, he is dead.
No, he's
How do you know?
Well, hold on. In the story, he can choose to come back to life, but he chooses to be the way with the Force.
That means he's not dead, though.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if he's dead or not. Now, Yoda chose to be one with the Force, and he's dead, right? Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan did the same thing, and he's dead. So maybe Revan is too. They left the door open, though. We didn't see him die.
Yeah.
There's no actual proof, like, he's gone. Like,
so he's boss. He's the coolest guy ever in the Star Wars galaxy. He looks awesome. He's amazing at everything he does. We all love him. We ready to move on?
One more thing. Do you think, his knowledge and intelligence is so great? Do you think it's more than Marco Ragnos?
Well,
yes.
There's more story to him than Marco Ragnos. So I would say probably yes from what I know. It's hard to say. I mean, hard to compare.
All right.
Honorable mentions.
You guys named all mine.
I forgot to put mine.
Okay, I only had two. Like I said, Thrawn. You guys know Thrawn?
I know
Grand
Thrawn.
Admiral Thrawn. If you asked 100 hardcore Star Wars fans to put together this list, 90 of them would put Thrawn as number one. The greatest expanded universe character of all time. He's from the books, the very first books that were written in the expanded universe. And he's Chiss, which is like that blue skin with the red eyes.
Chiss. So
super
cool.
intelligent.
Yeah.
And he becomes a Grand Admiral of the Empire, but again, he's not exactly a bad guy per se. He's a bad guy that you love, I guess. So I'll leave that at that. Number two, you guys know who this is. Dirge.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So
oh my gosh.
Cool.
Dirge. Oh,
Dirge is a bounty
him.
hunter that exists in the original cartoon that was called Clone Wars.
Not Star Wars Clone Wars, like the
Just
2012 one.
No, this is an older one that was on the Cartoon Network. Really awesome. It's not considered canon anymore. I wish it was. It is so freaking cool. Like, everything about that cartoon is cool.
All right, so...
But he was a bounty hunter that could, like, regenerate, and he fought Obi-Wan in one of the coolest
Wolverine.
scenes.
Yeah, Obi-Wan, cut him, like... He started at his shoulder and cut him, like, through his heart.
Yeah,
and George just be like... And it's like...
His muscle fibers would twist back together, and
then he'd be like back.
Like he would stab him in the heart, cut off all of his body parts, and it shows him dead. The regeneration come back to life, and he goes after him, and he just like explodes.
He totally swallows Obi-Wan into his body, basically, and then
Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan explodes out, I guess, using the Force. It was a really cool scene.
It's weird. You know how your brain looks? It's all pink. Yeah. That's basically him, but just like a giant transformer body.
But he wears this really cool armor, right? And he's just a total badass.
Think of it, Dirge. It's an awesome name.
Do you remember when we found Jett used to play with those Galactic Heroes, those small action figures, and we found the Dirge one, and we were freaking out? Yeah. So he was my other honorable mention. Because I thought a little bit outside Knights of the Old Republic, unlike you guys, where everything was Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay, well, it's like, we spent way more time on non-canon than canon, obviously.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, the worst.
I know.
Kade, who's the worst?
You guys probably haven't heard of him. His name is Ironclad, okay? He's a side story, but he does a lot into the Revan.
So another Knights of the Old Republic, or the Old Republic.
Yes, and he was just so cocky and arrogant, and so me and Basta would be planning something, I'll be okay, and he comes and he goes, stop, I'm leaving, I'm taking my fleet with me unless we do this plan. I'm like, come on, dude, I was about to hit this awesome flashpoint,
I didn't put this guy as the worst, but if I was doing that, I would have picked Eric Jorgen. I can't stand that guy.
Yeah, me too.
He's kind of annoying.
He is really annoying.
I just picked him because he's so cocky and changes the plans of everything, and he kind of almost cost us to fail. But the story plans out as us winning.
Sure.
And so he hates Revan. We were all like, Revan's so much powerful, but we can maybe defeat him. We're probably not going to defeat him. He's like, Revan sucks. I could probably kill him with my blaster, one shot in the head. And he says it. He's like, who even is this Revan guy? He's probably just some weird Sith that can do special powers. He's not that good. We can defeat him easily. It's just charge right on. We're we gotta strike the critical points first and then take him down. He goes, it's one Sith. One Sith can't do anything to an army. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, Jett, who's the worst?
Kade doesn't know who he is, but you probably do, Dad. And from my book I'm reading, his name is Sexual.
I know him.
How do you spell it?
Sexual, it is. I think it's SEC. S. I don't know how to spell it.
Okay, I don't know who it is. I don't remember.
Right. So he is Scourge, kind of assistant.
Yeah.
He's kind of annoying to me. You know why?
Why?
Because he tells lies to Scourge, and then you know what Scourge does? So they're on the ride, and he's like, "Tell me what's going on," and he goes, "Was I even invited to see Darth Nihilus? It's another Sith."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, sort of." And then Scourge just chokes him and almost kills him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so annoying. And then he doesn't fight at all. All he does is speak. It's just annoying.
So, in my opinion, it's very difficult to get the feel of Star Wars right. Bad. No. Get the feel of the Star Wars in a book. It just doesn't translate well because it is a very visual experience going to the movies and seeing it. It fits in the cinematic world. It does not fit in the book world. Now, sometimes they get it right, but I think a lot of the books just don't pull it off because it's a hard thing to do. Comics, maybe because it's very visual. Video games, for sure, they can do it because there's a lot of cinematic experience in a video game. If the story's good, they can pull it off. But books are hard. So I've read some that I like a lot, and I like them not necessarily because they got the feel right, but because they're expanding on things that I'm interested in. Certain characters or storylines that I like that I'm learning more about. Not because they're great works on their own. And if they weren't Star Wars books, I'd probably not read them or not know about them and definitely not like them. So that being said, Timothy Zahn, who I mentioned before, he's probably the most successful author at translating good Star Wars stories into books. He wrote the first couple in the Expanded Universe, the very popular books. He's written several. One of them was called Outbound Flight. And in that book...
I've heard of that.
In that book, there was a character who was a Jedi. His name was Joruus C'baoth. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. His first name, though, Joruus, Jorus. He was, so the way that he looked, he kind of looked like Gandalf, but more masculine and muscular, which was already kind of on my nerves because it's too stereotypical. He was very arrogant, and he saw anybody who was a non-Force user as a lesser being. So kind of like how Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter sees Muggles, they're lesser than we are, right? So already being arrogant and seeing people that way, how is he a Jedi Master? There's no way he would have made it through the ranks of the Jedi and been promoted to the rank of Jedi Master being the way he is, right? Because those qualities, those characteristics, they're not Jedi traits. They're not at all. So I didn't buy him as a Jedi Master. And if he did somehow make it, and let's say he was in a movie and he made it that far, I would have hated him there too. It's that character just doesn't fit with the Jedi way. So he was in charge of this project called, this is where it gets ridiculous. He was in charge of this project called Outbound Flight, which I kind of actually liked the mission. They were exploring the unknown regions of space, trying to find new travel routes, new species, things like that. And it was interesting. He screwed it up, though, when he ran into Thrawn. Thrawn is the guy I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And he, like I said, he's very arrogant, and he made all these bad decisions that assumed he could easily defeat these people because they're aliens and they're not Force users. Thrawn was a tactical genius, though, totally outsmarted him and defeated him. So what Joruus C'baoth did is went nuts, basically fell to the dark side out of anger and disbelief that he lost, and then he dies. Thrawn beats him anyways.
That's so weird.
So here's the thing. It gets worse. He already doesn't make sense to a Jedi, and that annoys me. But it gets worse. Lots of stories in Star Wars have involved the idea of cloning. Like, there's a whole movie on it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'm here. I don't really care here or there on cloning. But where it bothers me is when the idea comes up of cloning a Jedi or a Sith, because I don't like the idea that you could clone Luke Skywalker and have another Luke Skywalker who could be just as powerful as the original Luke Skywalker. The Force isn't like something that you can just clone.
Take advantage of. That's like taking advantage of the Force.
I just don't like the idea that you could do it at all. And if you could, why wouldn't they have cloned 1 million Yodas instead of 1 million Jango Fett's and had a Jedi army of Yodas, right? Like, so I don't like the idea that you could even do this. But what Palpatine did in this storyline is he created a clone of Joruus C'baoth. And guess what his name was?
What?
Joruus C'baoth with 2 U's. Joruus. Joruus. How lame is that? Like, it's ridiculous. There's even a clone of Palpatine. He's Emperor version 2.0 in some of the story. I just don't like it at all. So he clones Joruus, who becomes Joruus, and he's insane, and he's crazy nuts. And guess what he does?
What?
He creates a clone of Luke out of Luke's severed hand that he found, and guess what his name is?
What?
Luke with 2 U's. Like, this is just like the laziest storytelling naming I've ever heard. It's horrible, and I can't stand it.
Who's it by?
Timothy Zahn, who's actually very good, but this part of it is horrible, and he's the worst to me. Joruus C'baoth.
Okay.
WTF. All right, any final thoughts? I hope not.
Wait.
Oh, I have actually a story.
I have to announce the next episode.
You don't do that yet. You do this every episode. You wait until I say our next episode is, and then you say it, okay?
Fine.
All right. So thank you to everybody for taking the time to listen. Please check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/5to1podcast. Tweet us at the same handle. Give us your opinions there. I want to take a second here. I want to give 2 shout-outs because 2 of our users actually comment on Facebook and leave us stuff. Anthony Joffrion and Casey King. You 2 are awesome, and we love you, and thank you for participating on Facebook. I can't even get my own kids who are members of this show to participate on Facebook, so you guys rock. I want to encourage other people to do the same thing. Also, please take the time to give us a review on iTunes. All right, let's move on, Jett. Please join us next time on 5 to 1 for our discussion on...
All right. So no top 5 cartoons like SpongeBob or something. Top 5 shows.
Just TV shows that are are you saying non-animated TV shows?
Yeah, just
Live
like
action
actually
shows.
real shows, not like SpongeBob or something like that.
Those are real shows too, but we'll call it top 5 live action TV shows. Okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Say bye.
Bye. Charmander.
I love you.
Wow.